So that was a short introduction into our new museum, Judengasse. We opened it 2016, last year in March, and we received the Museum Prize of Hesse and Thüringen last year for it. And what we are doing is we are presenting on-site objects of early modern times in the ruins of 5 houses of the former Jewish ghetto, which happens to be the first Jewish ghetto of Europe. The Judengasse was started to be a ghetto in 1462, so 50 years before the Venice ghetto. And the object we are presenting, all of them were either produced or used or found in the ruins of the Judengasse. We don't present any objects that were produced or used later on. That's the concept. We have, like, right in the beginning, a multimedia installation. I just showed you part of the movie that we are presenting there, and we have like an app that leads you through the ruins. This is an exhibition view. As you can see, we were emphasizing with light spots the stones of the ruins. And this is the first room. In the first room, we put an emphasis on the area, which is the area of the Berner. And we do that because it is a site of contested memory. There were like fierce protests in 1987, the Berner conflict. And we owe our very existence as a museum to those protests. And it was protests against the erection of a city building on the ground of the former Judengasse. And in the end, due to that protest, some of the ruins were kept, but most were destroyed. Right in front of the building, we have the Bernerplatz Memorial. It's dedicated to the Jews from Frankfurt that were deported and murdered. And behind those walls of the Bernerplatz Memorial, we have the old Jewish cemetery. You see here, it's the oldest gravestone dates back to 1272. So it's actually no light anymore. So this one is working? Okay. So it's actually the second oldest cemetery north of the Alps. And there is a gravestone by big Kabbalist rabbis. 2 of them I'm presenting you on the left-hand side, and those gravestones are being visited by Hasidic Jews on a daily basis. So when it comes to tourism, we have like Hasidic tourism on site. What we do, we give guided tours at the cemetery. The cemetery is included in our app. And we do flashlight tours. We do usual tours and flashlight tours. And we now did an experiment with a social media walk through the cemetery, which was very well accepted. We invented about 6 years ago, we launched a website together with the university library called Jewish Frankfurt. And on this website, you can find all places of major tourist interest and of major Jewish interest in the city of Frankfurt. And this is part of our work that we do. We work a lot in the city itself. So this is a new building that we conceptualized. It's under the European Central Bank. And it's actually what you can see on the right-hand side. It's under the basement of the former called Großmarkthalle, where the Jews, it's a place where Jews were gathered by force and deported from there. And we are giving tours and do the whole education on site. And that's another place we are in charge of. It's a changing exhibition in a former bunker on the site where there used to be one of the 4 big synagogues of Frankfurt. And we did a changing exhibition in this shelter on Jewish life in the former East End, which is 1/4 of Frankfurt. We do city tours on a regular basis. And we have a new format, which is like called My Frankfurt. It's a form of personal city walks with like known personality. from Frankfurt. Here you can see some of them. For instance, this is Gila Lustiger giving a tour through West End on the left-hand side. Don't know if you recognize him, it's Hanno Löwy. And I told you all those personals. And we like record those city tours as like a personal approach towards the city, and we will do something with it in a digital way later on. This is a project we did quite in September. It was called Pop-Up Monument. I don't know, there's so many noises. Okay, well, this works now. It was called a Pop-Up Monument, and as a matter of fact, it was a blow-up. It was a cooperation with an artist and architecture collective called Raumlabor Berlin. It was an inflatable blow-up right in the city center. And what we did on site is, first of all, we included, made a sort of an opening, soft opening, where we invited the Frankfurt population to construct the site with us. And of course, we had, as with everything we are doing, we always have a microsite and a special website. And then we had like two participatory elements. One of them was this table outside, where you could sit and actually get to know quite known and important personalities of Jewish history of Frankfurt. And the other one was that. There was a board, a hands-on board, asking you what are Jewish places in Frankfurt. And we did, of course, we combined it with a crowdsourcing thing online, asking our audience, what is a Jewish place for you? And as you can see on the left-hand side, that was the initial state, and after 10 days it looked like on the right-hand side. So we got quite a lot of pins and quite a lot of new information about places that we didn't even know, and sometimes they were conceived as Jewish places in Frankfurt. The whole bubble, for me, was a sort of a symbol of a Jewish space itself. Because it was like a place that was transparent, that was like directed towards the city, and at the same time it felt a sort of like protected within and fragile at the same time. So the feeling of being in this bubble was for me symbolizing the feeling of being a Jewish space. And this is why Jewish spaces and places were at the core of our program. And at the same time, we transformed the whole place into a platform for contemporary Jewish culture. So we did like concerts and lectures and discussions on crucial issues, like, for instance, the new debate on what is called father Jews in Germany, so those patrilineal Jews that have like a Jewish mother, no Jewish mother, but a Jewish father. And it was a very vivid and accepted place, and most of the visitors came in and sort of didn't know in the beginning what this was all about. And then we sort of like introduced them to Jewish content on the second hand, and this is what was nice about it. So we got a completely new audience. So this is the one project I wanted to introduce you about, and the other one is something we are working on right now. It's an app. It's called Invisible Spaces, and it's a collaboration with the Historical Museum. And the idea is that with this app, it's dedicated to school education and to tourists. And with this app, you can walk in the city of Frankfurt and get to know places, invisible places, of migration post-World War II. And those places of migration are not only Jewish migration places, but they are places of migration that are important for other communities as well, like the Turkish community, the Greek community, the Spanish, and the Italian community. And we found out that a lot of these places, they are actually shared spaces. So these were places where a lot of those communities actually mixed or got to know each other. So this is how it will look like. You will have those pins where you can see the different places, and then you can like dive in and choose whether you want to choose a tour based on a community, or these are the approaches we are offering. You can go by thematic approaches, topographic, temporal, or communities. and once you did your choice, it will lead you through the town. 2 minutes? I'm almost finished. Okay, so as I said, we developed what is called in the digital world use case scenarios, which means like scenarios dedicated to our target audiences, which are tourists and school children. And we sort of like now we are testing now whether those use case scenarios are actually working. So this is the period we are in. We are working with school classes, we give them the app, and we find out whether our idea of how they would walk through the town is actually right. So, and now to the final big thing. This is the Rothschild Palais. This is a short movie the online editor did on the construction work that is happening on site. This is like the situation, how it was like this spring. And we are supposed to open a permanent exhibition in this space in less than 2 years. Oh, you hardly see anything. So, in the new space, this is how we look like when we visit it. This is what I did. I opened a temporary office in the construction site. And this is what you do. You put the foundation stone, you have a lot of press once you do it. And this is a project we did on the hoarding, which is like we invited a comic artist to actually comment on the construction work. And so here you see the comic artist, Volker Reichel. We always inform him on what we are working on, and he's like putting that in his strips, and the strips are being published in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, the main newspaper in Germany, and online as well. And this is how hopefully our new place will look like in about 2 years. And I want it to be a vivid center for Jewish culture and history and in the present. Thank you very much.